And we're in a world that is based on certain rules and functions. And it's important to ask ourselves, why are we here in this type of a world? And is this world the real world? Earlier we were talking about energy and energy fields, and I think that the circumstances do exist in this day and age because we have access to the information to raise our energy field and awareness to a level to where we change, to where we go beyond human, beyond just simply human, beyond that. And so if we can acknowledge that there are things that we're responsible for upgrading within our own DNA and activating, then we are on the right path. I'm gonna try not to rush this talk or drive because I don't have anyone behind me. And we could see the beautiful prescribed burn over here to my left. Kind of nice and cinematic. Hopefully we won't actually see any major real fires in this region anytime soon, but last year there were other major fires in other parts of the state. But let's go back to that. What is the true ancient Colorado, as well as the ancient Earth? It's a question that's mystified me for many, many years. Even before I came to this part of Colorado, I was asking the same questions when I was in Costilla County, Colorado. And I would call it the land before time. I still remember praying openly to that which I identified to be the Great Spirit. Now I just simply say, Supreme Creator. When I sat by the Rio Grande River, a couple people stuck by the road. Not a road I would want to be stuck on, so I've been trying to keep a spare tire in the car this year. I'll have you know that I drove around this car without a spare for about a year. And through intuition alone, some told me, Alex, you got to get a spare. And as soon as I got a spare, all of a sudden I started having issues. One time I had a flat tire and I didn't even have a spare, so I drove 15 miles on this road. From the highway, mind you, up this road and up the other various turns. So there's a certain amount of resources earlier in the year that went to that. Money comes, money goes, but the science of that and discussing the secrecy of that has its value in our world, because you may go through periods in which you're really suffering economically or worried about something, and you may not expect things to come through, and they do. And maybe you might take it as a sign of something, a sign maybe you're being watched over, or a sign of maybe a part of yourself that's helping you create on a level that you don't even understand. Maybe the bodies that we're using anyways are avatars for our real selves, which could be out there somewhere. Who knows? Who knows? It also came to me earlier in town. One way to describe how humans that don't have an ability to protect their own thoughts, people that are super susceptible, they're played like drones. They're played like robots by those unseen forces. And one way to see the unseen forces and the influence is to realize that through the air, through actual signals, a human in one part of the world, say in a warehouse outside Las Vegas, could operate a drone to do the work of doing something that they don't have the ability or can't do. Or in a world where they can't find a human to do it, so they use a robot to do it, or a robot human to direct a drone to attack, say, a funeral or a wedding in Afghanistan, killing casualties. So this has become the norm in our world. Calmly today, I remind you of this. What happens to others can happen to us, especially when people are silent about the things that matter. So I want you to think about that also, that metaphor for the drone operator. Okay, so there are drone operators in this world that see us as their video game to play. So real consciousness and unplugging is unplugging from being manipulated from unseen forces. So people gravitate to me, and I may have a stressful moment, and I may say something in a video that seems highly charged, but it still needs to be said. I care about everybody, and I think that it's important that people learn the tools to unplug themselves. And a person can't unhear something once they hear it, right? So there could be something that's said, for example, in 2015, and there's actually real world examples of this, where I'm talking about things in 2014 and 2015, and because the harshness of life in the RV at that time, there were ways in which I was more articulate, perhaps, although I still think I'm articulate, and more so in some ways, maybe more emotional in some videos, and even if some people didn't like that, it still reached people around the world. That commentary on relationships, that commentary on the illusions of separation, that commentary on the real spiritual protection versus the gang-stalking psychosis, TI mentality of not realizing how deep it actually goes and realizing that the solutions are spiritual. So I'm aware of the videos that I've done in the past. They're making a difference and they're reaching people. In a way, they're making a bigger difference than they did at the moment in which they were released. And that's exactly how I'm choosing to look at what's going on right now. And the importance of speaking in a tone to future generations as well as the present. That also brings balance. Because by keeping my consciousness on other generations, not just this, or the immediate moments, there's a sense of peace and balance. And it doesn't feel like an acoustic experience, like there's blowback from the truth that I'm sharing. In fact, it feels healing to speak the truth now, even if it's not widely understood or viewed. Because in the world of tomorrow, there's going to be a certain level of value placed on the truth as it is. Because this is currently a generation that is blind to certain things regarding cause and effect, regarding karma. You can say that this current society in the whatever phase of the Kali Yuga it's in the Vedic cycles, it has regressed in some ways. Elaborating on what I said recently, so I don't believe in a collective shift in consciousness. I do believe in consciousness, and I do believe in activation. Some people call it accessing your genetic memory. And we also want to evolve beyond certain levels of genetic memory that may hold us back. There could be things that are embedded within our DNA that have to do with being a slave and being afraid of punishment from the angry father, right? There's things that have been instilled within the DNA, and there's reasons why they've maintained certain ways of thinking in religions, in institutions. You can't have any pudding if you don't eat your mate. As he waxed the child, the creative child, with the ruler. Symbolic. And as I said last night, 1984, the book and movie, in the breakup of the relationships, is what happens to a lot of us spiritually. Look at that reality and the mind control and the targeting as they torture Winston in the end as what is happening spiritually in our world. Those things are happening spiritually in our world. There are consequences that come to those that violate the rules of the archons or the wishes of those that would like to masquerade as our guides while not truly being our guides or not truly having the right. Centering on gratitude, so I'm grateful that I have the peace right now in this part of North America during these times to speak this truth. I watch other videos from time to time. I appreciate other YouTubers that are out there, like Search for the Truth, like another individual that has also put out some amazing information. But honestly, I have pulled back a lot from engagement with others in the alternative media for my own sanity, because I've I've really been shocked to see how co-opted so many have become, to co-opted to the idea of it all being about numbers and hits and views. And we're talking about people I've known for years and years and years. It's actually a reality where there are very few people that I've known over the years that I think have maintained their spiritual integrity and haven't allowed themselves to be compromised by the peer pressure to just go along with the status quo view of viewing XYZ story and or situation. If you compare the cutting edge nature, if you will, how they were talking in the 1980s and 90s, hell, I can play you an MP3 or a podcast between Anthony Hilder and William Cooper. And William Cooper is really the main one that was making this point, but he was saying that the New World Order, as it comes about, uses white supremacy. And see, there was a time in which people were a little bit more receptive to seeing how that vehicle of destruction is coming back and still does exist. Not necessarily for the benefit of any group, let alone white people. That's ridiculous. That would be buying into a paradigm belief system. It's not good. Violence is never good, and it's never good when innocent people are marginalized as devil people because of the actions of a few. But it's happening again. The way to counter that is to not support the negative actions of the elements of society that are acting in a certain way. So right now, we are dealing with a period in time in which our peers in the alternative media don't want to address that level of the co-opt, while the mainstream media, CNN, co-opts the American people again by being, in some cases, some of the only outlets to report on some things that others don't want to report on. Confusing people into thinking then that maybe the media outlets are more legitimate than they were in the past, even if they're corporations. And so, in a way, by the alternative media not addressing the real corruption, it unfortunately helps CNN and or Fox News and or MSNBC, because the advanced propaganda program was to distract elements of the alternative media from the real corruption, and then the mainstream media starts reporting on things that the grassroots should be specializing in. Do you see how this goes? Doesn't mean that they're good. Doesn't mean MSNBC is good. They're not good for ignoring what's going on in Yemen. And they're not good for distracting and reporting on Stormy Daniels 455 times in a year. But the masses don't know jack. So when they see MSNBC and CNN report to stand up for them and their interests, even though those corporations don't care about them, they're giving them their cola, though. You get what I'm saying, don't you? And if you look at some of the guys in the alternative media, Chris Green, others, the way they talk, they're not trying to shine the light on actual corruption or injustices. They're screaming at the people that don't think like them, the people that aren't buying their products, etc., etc. Talking about the stock market collapse while we're looking at a crypto collapse. It's embarrassing at times to be primarily on YouTube because they marginalized so many of us in the alternative media as fakes with racial agendas. And they don't leave room for the Alex Yanceries of the world that don't. So I'm here, folks, as an independent, as I wrap up my thoughts, thanking the supreme being of this world for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I am humbled. I am honored. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank those of you that have signed up to OutsideTheBox.vhx.tv. You're helping me live my dreams. I believe that what you are a part of is history in the making, because there really aren't individuals that have audience support that do the off-grid thing, especially on a low budget, by themselves, right? On something as low as 1 acre. It's just simply not done. There are people out there that have YouTube channels. There are people out there with resources and a lot of support. There's not a lot of people like me. And I think history will look back at people like me and go, you know, there was a time where people that really didn't have a whole lot financially, family-wise, they were still able to create something by simply speaking and communicating. And through that alone, they ate bread. And there's something sacred in this experience. Some people won't understand it, and some people do. And some people do.